Princess Stéphanie of Belgium was born into royalty and married off at 16 to Crown Prince Rudolph of Austria, heir to a vast empire. But her life was marked by sorrow. In 1889, Rudolph died in a murder-suicide with his teenage mistress in the infamous Mayerling Incident, leaving Stéphanie widowed at just 24 and blamed for the tragedy, shunned by the Austrian court and estranged from her only daughter. She lost her royal status after remarrying a Hungarian nobleman. Once destined to be an empress, Stéphanie spent her later years in quiet exile, dying forgotten in 1945, a life that began with promise but ended in isolation and loss. Princess Stéphanie was born on May 21, 1864, at the Royal Palace of Laeken in Belgium. She was the second of 3 daughters and the third of 4 children born to King Leopold II of Belgium and Queen Marie of Austria. The marriage of Stéphanie's parents began unhappily and remained so throughout their lives. The couple largely lived separate lives. King Leopold had numerous mistresses and made little effort to maintain a successful marriage. Queen Marie was cold and emotionally distant. Stéphanie and her siblings had a difficult childhood. Their mother showed little interest in them, and their father, preoccupied with his business affairs in the Belgian Congo, spent no time with his daughters. In 1869, when Stéphanie's only brother Leopold died, King Leopold II blamed Queen Marie for their son's death. The young prince had fallen into a pond, contracted pneumonia, and died. Hoping for a crown prince, since only males could inherit the throne, Queen Marie became pregnant again. However, the long-awaited heir did not materialize, as the child was a girl, Clementine. After Clementine's birth, Stéphanie's parents became completely estranged. The royal courts of Belgium and Austria arranged Stéphanie's marriage. Crown Prince Rudolph of Austria, the only son of Emperor Franz Joseph and Empress Elizabeth, was under pressure to wed. Stéphanie, a Roman Catholic and still in her teens, met the emperor's requirements for a suitable bride. However, the empress did not consider her worthy, as the Belgian monarchy had only been established in 1830. Nevertheless, during a trip to Belgium in March 1880, at the invitation of King Leopold, Rudolph proposed to Stéphanie to the great joy of her parents. Stéphanie was sent to Vienna to learn the etiquette of the imperial court, but within a month, her ladies-in-waiting realized that she had not yet reached puberty. Stéphanie suffered great humiliation when the wedding was postponed, and she was sent back to Belgium. Eventually, the couple married on May 10, 1881, at the Augustiner Kirche, the parish church of the imperial court of the Habsburgs. Stéphanie was not quite 17 years old, and Rudolph was 22. Stéphanie and Rudolph's marriage was happy at first, but shortly after the birth of their daughter, their relationship began to deteriorate. Rudolph likely infected Stéphanie with a sexually transmitted disease, which left her infertile and unable to provide a male heir to the Austrian throne. In the years that followed, both Stéphanie and Rudolph began affairs with other people and intermittently spoke of divorce. On January 30, 1889 at Mayerling, a hunting lodge in the Vienna woods that Rudolph had purchased, he shot his 17-year-old mistress, Baroness Mary, and then himself in an apparent suicide pact. Stéphanie was widowed at the age of 24. Custody of Stéphanie's daughter, Elizabeth Marie, was assumed by her grandfather, Emperor Franz Joseph. Elizabeth remained close to him until his death in 1916. After the shock of Rudolph's death, Stéphanie traveled extensively and spent much of her time with her sisters, Louise and Clementine. She avoided Vienna as much as possible. Stéphanie's father and Emperor Franz Joseph attempted without success to arrange a marriage between her and Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the emperor's nephew and heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, in an effort to disrupt his relationship with Countess Sophie. Because Sophie was not a member of a reigning or formerly reigning family, she was not eligible to marry a member of the imperial family. Franz Ferdinand refused to give her up, and eventually the emperor permitted a morganatic marriage. The assassination of Franz Ferdinand and Sophie in June 1914 was one of the events that led to the outbreak of World War I. After an unhappy first marriage, Stéphanie married for love. On March 22, 1900, she wed Hungarian Count Elmer Lonier. Following the marriage, Stéphanie's daughter Elizabeth broke off all contact with her because the marriage was considered unequal. Stéphanie lost her imperial and royal titles, which also drew the wrath of her father. When her mother, Queen Marie, died in 1902, Stéphanie traveled to Brussels to attend the funeral. However, when she tried to say goodbye to the coffin, her father, King Leopold II, had her removed from the chapel. After her father, King Leopold II, died in 1909, Stéphanie and her sister Louise tried to claim their share of the billions their father had earned in the Belgian Congo, which had initially been his private property, but they lost their case in court. Until the end of World War II, Stéphanie and her second husband lived peacefully at Orishvar Castle, located located in what is now present-day Slovakia. After the arrival of the Soviet army in 1945, the couple left the castle and sought refuge at the Benedictine Abbey of Pannonhalma in Hungary. It was there, on August 23, 1945, that Stéphanie died at the age of 81. Her husband, Count Elemer Lonier, died in Budapest, Hungary on July 20, 1946. The couple was buried together at the Abbey of Pannonhalma.